Go.
Okay. I need to ask permission for you to let me record.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're good.
Welcome to Hot in Heaven, yow! Right here on Monster Radio, where music and minds meet. Here, I probably knocked out my guest ears right there with my intro, but he is. Let me get up the actual intro for him because I welcomed everybody to the year-end edition of Hard and Heavy, and as tradition as the last 2 years on Hard and Heavy, we've had. I like to bring in an expert to deluge into all the craziness at the year of 2021. And he has had a crazy year, and we've all had crazy years with COVID and everything. But last year, I had this gentleman on to talk about the craziness that was both the rock and pop music landscape, as we both dissect it as only this man could. He is a well-respected reviewer in the world of YouTube music reviewer community. He has 2 channels, Spectrum Pulse, where he does music reviews and puts albums on the pulse, and as well as solo reviews, and Billboard Breakdown, where each week he tears down the insanity that is the Hot 100. He is 1/4 of the Rock Coliseum, along with Crash Thompson, John from ARTV, and Luke from Rocked. He is Mark Grandin, Spectrum Pulse. How we doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing fantastically. It's a cold December day in Audubon, PA, where I am recording this. How about yourself in Toronto?
It's actually pretty nice outside from what I can tell. We've had a lot of winds go through recently. Like I went to a football game last night and I was freezing my ass off, but it's been nice. For me, I grew up in the Midwest. This is not bad for me at all.
Yeah. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And we come here to dissect the year that was 2021. Boy.
Yeah.
And I was gonna make a joke that we predicted The Weeknd wrong last year. Because
sort of. Yes and no.
Yes and no, because we were like, I was listening back last year and we were like, oh, this Hot 100 run's going to last past the Super Bowl, and then it's going to fall off. And then it didn't fall off. And then,
yeah, I was wrong about that completely. I freely admit that.
Blinding Lights became the biggest Hot 100 hit ever.
And you know what? It's a great song. So if it's going to be one of the biggest hits of all time, I'm not about to complain about that. That's just really nice to see. It's so rare when it happens. I'm just going to cherish that.
Yeah, we just cherish that. And with the TikTok trends and the hits becoming more prevalent on the Hot 100 and streaming becoming a primary method of listening of most people in the United States and Canada, how can Billboard adjust their Hot 100 algorithm to skew the numbers to what people are actually listening to and not the numbers so dependent on physical/digital sales and radio airplay?
That's a layered and very complicated conversation, because I think, keep in mind that Billboard is not built specifically as a consumer-facing publication. It's more an industry publication. It's more designed to speak to who is bringing in money for the industry at a specific time. I think that a lot of diehard fan bases don't realize that. They treat the whole Billboard apparatus and a number 1 on Billboard as having a lot more meaning in terms of the artist's success and presence in the market, when in reality, it's never truly represented that. That's how Billboard markets it, but not really how it's true. Like there are songs that will be massive in specific subcultures or just on the radio or streaming or YouTube or even just in the sales space that might be very representative to a specific fan base, but not to everyone else. Now, with streaming becoming a lot more prevalent, it's tricky. In my opinion, it's very tricky if Billboard even has the incentive to change their whole structure, because I personally don't think they do. They want to maintain some vestige of legitimacy, and that's difficult. especially as whenever there is a formula, somebody's going to try to find their way to bend the rules however they can. But the truth of the matter is if you bend one piece to favor one side, or say you're doing it in order to more objectively represent somebody, I don't think you're ever going to possibly get it. For instance, if you favor the radio, you will have people who have the radio connections who always get to the front of the line. You see that a lot in rock and metal, for instance. The
I interned at a rock and metal station, and I saw it firsthand.
Exactly. Whereas if you do it on the sales side of things, you get the fans to buy in, but then you also get some of the gimmickry, you get the bundling packages, you get a lot of the sales shenanigans that happen throughout the course of this year that we'll probably get into. Or if you get into the streaming, well, it's been exposed a couple times over that streaming algorithms do not benefit the average everyday consumer, because the average everyday consumer is rather passive in their listening. They'll go to a playlist, they'll go to what is curated for them, and thus identifying what is truly popular off of streaming it's a bit of a misnomer. So in my opinion, I think it's kind of up in the air in terms of defining what popular is, and weighing three different metrics against each other. It's kind of a fool's errand. I think Billboard, doing what they have in recent weeks, revising that sales are less important, I personally think it's closer to the right decision. But at the same time, I know how a certain amount of people will say, not really. That's how artists make money. And don't we want to highlight how artists make money from an industry publication? It's tough to say.
Yeah, it is tough to say. And, it skews both ways, because you have one team that says, oh, what's being played on the radio is the most prevalent because it's being played on the radio. And then one team says, oh, sales are prevalent because people are actually spending their hard-earned money on it. And then one team says, oh, streaming, because people are actually selecting it to stream.
Yep.
So
it's three competing interests, and they all have good points. But the one thing I want to stress here is that it is a constructed number one. Identifying that any of this is organic as much as people say it is, it's kind of not. And I think when people understand that it's a constructed number one and primarily intended for the industry against their own benchmarks, I think that's a better way to look at the charts, at least in that mechanism.
Yeah, and it's just a deluge of things. And, even with that Rolling Stone chart even going belly up, it's just like a little...
Can I say that kind of sucked? That bugged me a decent bit, because you know what? I had issues with how the Rolling Stone chart was working, and I kind of predicted it was going to happen, but at least they tried. I would have preferred it was not a publication that had any ties to music criticism, but that's an ethics conversation. But at the same time, I think there should be competition in the space. It shouldn't just be Billboard. Especially when Billboard
or media base.
Exactly. It shouldn't be mechanisms that can be so easily gamed.
Right. I agree with that. With that all being said, Levitating by Dua Lipa topped both the US and Canadian Hot 100 year-end chart, with it on top of the US Hot 100 without it being on top of the US Hot 100 weekly chart. Do you think it not going to number one on the weekly chart but on the year-end chart will affect its chart legacy and how big of a hit it was actually?
Because that's impossible to say. That's impossible to say. And I'll give you a few examples. First of all, there are songs that have topped the year-end charts, especially in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That never really hit number one. It's more of looking at the longevity of a song. And the longevity of a song like Levitating, I think, is actually really tricky to analyze. Because the original remix, you could argue it won't have huge longevity because it's like the third or fourth single from the album. It ran for a long time. It got super popular, but how well will trends age? How well will the scene age alongside of that? And it's impossible to talk about Levitating without talking about the remix and the presence of DaBaby on it, and how DaBaby will, given all of his let's be polite and say antics this summer, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if and how his legacy evolves with respect to that song's longevity.
This was actually the 12th question on my thing, but it actually pertains to this actual question. What do you think are the prevailing trends of the 2020's Hot 100 will be?
In my opinion, it's a little early to tell. I think TikTok is a major factor. I think anyone ignoring TikTok is making a huge mistake. I think the new disco revival is now firmly in swing, and it's actually producing a lot of credible hits. And in my opinion, for the good, because most songs are really good. I like that trend, at least in my personal opinion. I hope it doesn't get overexposed. I think the return of the 2000s nostalgia wave is now very much in swing.
Oh, yeah. The ABCDFU thing.
Yep. But here's the thing. I like that song. I kind of get
what
it's trying to do. Like, it's just about as toxic as Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne or Misery Business by Paramore. And one of those is considered a classic. So the funny thing with this is that I think the 2000s nostalgia wave is going to very much clue in with regards to not just the rock charts, but also the hip hop charts. You're starting to see a real prevalence of the 2000s revival in terms of some of that sound. The late Pop Smoke was really dialing into that, especially with how much he idolized 50 Cent. The beats are becoming more minimal. I think trap as a whole, while it has prevalence, is starting to ebb a little bit away, just naturally with time. I could be absolutely wrong, but even then, I think the more melodic brand of hip hop that comes with it will translate into more of a 2000s sound.
What Mark is saying is return of crunkcore.
You know what? There's a part of me that's not against it because 2000s crunk went so hard, and I grew up with that. But that's the funny thing now. We're now entering into the era where I'm in my 30s. So hearing music that is actively nostalgic to actively nostalgic to my high school era is truly entertaining to me.
Yeah, I'm 25, so yeah, I grew up in that that sweet spot, late 2000s, early 2010s sort of sweet spot where a lot of artists are sort of tapping into. Speaking of The Weeknd, where we joked about earlier, had two big hits on the top 5 this year with Blinding Lights and Save Your Tears, with Ariana Grande credited on the Hot 100 year-end list. Speaks to his hits consistency and people's appetite to hear his music. With Blinding Lights' record-breaking run, does it lessen people's wanting to hear The Weeknd's music, or his success of Take My Breath negate all that talk, or the success of that song with Post Malone? I forget what it's called, but
that's one coming over or something like that. I forget the name of the song directly. It doesn't stick with me. I think that's really tough to say with The Weeknd. Apologies, bit of a cold right now. One thing I will say is I think The Weeknd is now at the point of chart dominance where the industry is now fully behind him. Even if he's not getting the awards he should be, he's got the longevity and run that it doesn't really going to matter. It means that he's got the clout to ride on his name alone. The key thing will be him not fumbling when he's this high at the top, which is, I've seen it happen so many times before. You have a pop star who gets to the very top and has that sort of sustained dominance and then trails off. So my thinking is that I'm happy The Weeknd did not put out an album this year. I think one will probably be coming next year at some point. But there is an audience for it. I think people have liked his retro 80s sound. I think I'm going to be very curious where he innovates next, because I don't think he's going to do this another time. It would be very easy if he coasts in that lane, but I don't think he will. And honest to God, I'm not sure he stays pop for his next album. I think he's going to, my suspicion is that he's probably going to go more electronic, because that's where a lot of his co-signing ventures have been with his work with Gesaffelstein and One Tricks Point Never. He's moving into that space and territory. I think his next project might be more challenging, might challenge how much he gets played on the radio. We'll have to see, but my suspicion is he's going to get weird. That's my thinking.
Yeah, and I like people getting weird. It's very good for music people.
Absolutely. Especially someone who has such a fine graft of the fundamentals as he does.
Yeah, he really does have a fine grasp on fundamentals of songwriting. So I
Uh-huh.
agree with that. In retrospect to Mood by 24K Golden and EA Dior was a much bigger hit in 21 than in 2020, but it feels much more like a 2020 hit to me as it finished 47th in 2020 and 4th in 2021. What are the prospects of both 24K Golden and Ian Dior, and how you feel like their futures are going to pan out after Mood becoming a big smash?
I can already answer that. 24K Golden put out an album this year,
Yeah.
and nobody really cared. That's the sad thing. I don't think it was bad at all. I thought it was
No, it wasn't.
okay. It had some pop moments. I thought in that sort of pop trap lane that could have become successful. But I get the guys, they scream one-offs to me, unfortunately. Like, they don't really have the sort of personality that would drive more of a long-standing career. They've tried to get things going, but they're really more dependent upon the hook. And as good as the hook was on Mood, as much as I really like that song, I don't think their career's longevity is anywhere near guaranteed. They might catch another one, but I don't see it, sadly.
Yeah, I just don't see it either because yeah, when he released that album, I listened to it. It was okay, and then no one was talking about it.
No, you're absolutely right. Granted, they had terrible timing. They put it out in a time where I think a lot of artists really struggled to keep their albums in the conversation this year, unless you caught lightning in a bottle. And there were a few artists who did, but when you look back on this year and you realize how many albums came and went, like Lil Durk and Lil Baby put out a collab album and nobody cares.
Speaking of an album that somebody care about,
Yep.
What would 2021 be without talking about one Olivia Rodrigo?
Yep.
With Sour, an album that actually people actually really cared about, number 2 on the Billboard 200 year end. Unfortunately, Morgan Wallen got that number 1 spot.
We'll talk about that.
And her smashing success on how do you feel her meteoric rise of Olivia Rodrigo will go from here, having 2 number 1 songs and an album bomb to her name already? And how do you feel Olivia will do in 2022? Will the Grammys pull and Billie Eilish move and try to crown her as pop's next starlet?
The Grammys are going to do what the Grammys do. They will try, but I think they would be very cautious not to, in my opinion. I would honestly give her a little bit of space. The one thing I like a lot that Olivia Rodrigo is doing is keeping a lot of her touring venues to be a lot smaller. She's not doing the huge stadiums or arena tours to overexpose herself. And good thing, too, she doesn't have the catalog in which she can yet. I think playing to smaller music halls, driving that smaller scene, building a little bit more organic groundswell will actually help her career longer term. I also think it helps that she's returning to acting. She's going to be on the next season of High School Musical, even despite all the clout that she has, which kind of threw me at first, but also thought, no, this makes sense. You're keeping your options open. You want to build your music career longer term, but you also have a guaranteed continuity to rely upon. And that's actually pretty smart. I think she's managed her career very well. And the fact that most of her music's all right, or at least are good to great, I have no qualms with that. I also know that there are a lot of her audience is far younger than I am and have embraced her music way more wholeheartedly than I have. But I've been down this road before. I know what she's doing. I know what she's pulling from, but that's honestly kind of a benefit. I kind of like just watching to see where her career will go. The industry is going to overcompensate to want her to do more, but I'm happy that her management is slow walking this. It's kind of the same thing that Cardi B's management did for a while, which I'm actually really happy about.
Yeah, and she's playing the Met here in Philly, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense for an Olivia Rodrigo because it's like an opera hall. It's like it's like perfect intimacy. It's 3,000 seats, just enough to get people's appetite wet,
Who's opening for her?
I don't know. Let me see, Olivia. I know Holly Humberstone.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm happy with how she's managing things and keeping things at a good pace. She's also stupid young too. Like, I don't want to feel like you rush kids who are not even fully adults yet into stardom so fast, especially when they have so much potential. I think one thing that I've liked about the past couple of pop starlets is they've had some of that artistic development. You can tell that somebody has done a lot of coaching with Olivia Rodrigo to make her a pop star heir apparent, and they're not rushing
Right.
it, and that's a good thing.
Gracie Abrams, Holly Humberstone, and Baby Queen are the three that are being promoted.
That's not bad. That's actually that's a decent tour. Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of Billie Eilish, her album Happier Than Ever rollout seemed undercooked at best and misplayed at worst. This album was a great listen, but a heavy listen. What position do you see Billie Eilish is put in the music industry, and how do you feel the lack of singles success, even though Therefore I Am finished 25th in the Hot 100 year-end, will build her as an artist?
I think it's a complicated question because I don't think Billie Eilish is going to be set for mainstream long-term success. Mainstream long-term success. I feel like she's built for it. She's got the quality in which she could do it, because I honestly think Happier Than Ever is better than her debut. I'm one of the people who's in that straight. But the thing is, it's not a singles-driven album. Like, it may have, you can't even really argue that it underperformed, given that a lot of its sales expectations were mostly met, and given the inability from her to tour to the same extent, because of pandemic lockdown, it did about as well as it could have.
Yeah.
So my thinking with her, I think the industry is going to have a problem keeping her around. And this is more of, I think that she's so young, and I think that she's displayed enough superstar talents in other ventures that the whole nonsense that she's gone through with the music industry itself that wants her to be something, and that she's kind of like, yeah, I'm not really this. I'm
not really that.
Yeah. I think she might pull a Lorde and just get the hell out. Kind of a shame, because like what Lorde didn't really work in terms of the music. I didn't really care for it, but at the same time, I can at least respect what she's trying to do. And because again, she went through the same thing.
Yeah, it's just a darn shame, because you were pushing teenagers to the edge.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the sad thing, because it's building up for the short term, easy, massive dollar solution rather than sustaining a long-term artist. I think Billie could easily be a long-term artist, given her influences, given the depth of her songwriting, but keeping the situation in a climate where she could do that well is going to be tough.
Yeah, and that's why we're saying don't do this to Olivia.
And that's my point. I'm happy that Olivia's management seems to be a little bit more cautious in protecting her. In the same way, I don't know if Billie's is. I think part of this is because Billie's a little weirder and a little bit darker. I think Olivia Rodrigo is safer, and because she's got the Disney background and she's got some of that protection built in. But at the same time, it's going to be just a matter of wait and see.
Yeah, it is a matter of wait and see here. Doja Cat, speaking of another female artist, had another year as an emerging pop star. Kiss Me More with SZA made the year-end list at number 6 and appearing on the list 6 times overall. What do you see Doja Cat's future being in an overall sense?
I want her with different management. It's hard to argue with consistent single success, especially with how versatile she is as an artist. But I really wish she got away from Kemosabe, because she's not getting the amount of cash that's coming in from the other side of it. Like, I've seen a couple of her live streams. I've seen how legitimately charismatic and musically talented she is. I've also heard a lot of stuff behind the scenes with her where she will produce a lot of her own material and then other producers will claim credit for it, which is a really scummy thing to do. But when you're on a label that's run by Dr. Luke, that unfortunately happens. So I want her with different management. I want her away from that mess. I don't want to see another Kesha legal situation and nightmare happen. But I also think that might just be a matter of time. I really hope she gets away from all that and she does it in a smart way.
Yeah, it looks like a nightmare situation happening, but we'll
Yep.
wait and see.
Yep.
Now we talk about the man of 2021, in my opinion, Lil Nas X. Though only grabbing the number one spot for number 1 week, only 1 week, Montero, Call Me By Your Name was consistently in the top 10 until recently, and Industry Baby was the same, with the consistent top 10 one hitting number 1 on the first week of October and still consistent in the top 10. Do you see a weekend Hot 100 style run for Industry Baby? What does it say about Lil Nas X's longevity in pop music for the future?
I think Lil Nas X has a lot of long-term sustainability. The one thing he proved me with Montero, the album, was that he had that. I was really thrilled to see that the album was as diverse and singles focused as it is. He proved that he was a pop star with that album, and he proved that he had longevity. He also proved that he would fit very well into the 2000s revival, not just in his embrace of pop rock, but also because, like, you look at a song like Industry Baby, it sounds like a T.I. song from the mid-2000s.
Oh my God. Yeah, it just sounds so much like a T.I. featuring, like, I don't know which other rapper it would be, but
throw like Slim Thug on it. Like someone
Slim
totally
Thug.
random. Yeah, that's someone nobody's heard about in like 15 years.
Oh my God.
The funny thing is, I think Lil Nas X proved he's got sustainability. He's also proven that he's got way more career savvy than I was expecting, especially on Columbia, which has got a sketch reputation for managing their artist.
Right.
I think I would attach an asterisk to Lil Nas X not getting number ones as sustainably, because again, that's more saying that it's more putting that on Billboard when Billboard was getting a little compromised throughout the course of the summer
Wink,
this
nudge,
year.
nudge.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that a little bit. But I will say this. I think Lil Nas X has sustainability. He proved me wrong. I thought he was more in not one hit wonder, but kind of gimmicky. But he moved away from that, and I think that's going to be really promising for him going forward. That's a net positive.
It is a net positive, and I'm game for more Lil Nas X, as you know.
Yeah.
I have my money down on him.
I would too.
Silk Sonic
Yeah.
had a great year considering the kind of act they are. Do you think their retro tinge R&B sound that's produced really well can hold up to on the charts, as well as Leave the Door Open finish 7 on the list?
No, not at all. And I think we're lucky we got as much Silk Sonic as we did. I love A Night with Silk Sonic as an album. It's one of my favorites of this year. I'm wholeheartedly behind it. I think the project is produced immaculately. The presentation is phenomenal. And
oh my God,
the writing is really good. If you pay attention to the details, it's loose, it's funny in every way it should be. And it calls back to the past without feeling like an explicit imitation. Because you've heard all the Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield, Earth, Wind, and Fire songs that fit into this lane. But this is still very much a Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak project. And they bring enough their own flavor to this. But it's a side venture. I know it's a side venture. It kind of breaks my heart it's a side venture because it was so good. And it might be the best thing either of them have ever done as a long-form project. But I know what it is. It sucks that it's just going to be this. But at the same time, and I was listening to a couple other podcasts about this, the possibility that this could become a gimmick that gets overextended is a real risk. And
that's a real risk. Yeah, you don't want that.
Well, the thing is, and this is what happened in the 70s, is that a lot of people pushed this brand of soul and disco to the edges. And like people always point to Disco Demolition Night as the night when everything blew up for that subgenre, but that's not really true. Disco kind of faded because it got schmaltzy, overproduced, and people just stopped caring. And to a certain extent, plus other
and it became disco
times. Yeah. It kind of crashed in its own timing in its own way, and that kind of sucked. And I wouldn't want to see that happen to Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars, especially as I think they both have long and storied careers ahead of them. They can do so much more. The one thing I saw was that I kind of want to hear Bruno take a more updated pop sound and then put Anderson .Paak on all of that.
Oh, that would be glorious.
Or vice versa, you get Anderson .Paak now having a little bit more clout and star power thanks to showing up in not just one of the best albums of the year, but in so many of the best memes of the year. That you
my God.
But then you have his hip hop sound that has all that texture, has all that flavor. And then you now have the connections of Bruno Mars and all of his songwriting cohorts behind him. And then Anderson .Paak starts having legit hits of his own. So yes, net positive with Silk Sonic. So thrilled that they got a lot of the hits and the traction they did. But at the same time, I'm happy that it's a one-off. It's a one-off. I know what it is. Exactly.
And this bitch meme. Oh my God. My goodness.
Great meme. Great meme.
Peaches by your favorite countryman, Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Sort of launched a quick turnaround for Bieber from the last year where he was singing about Yummy, and from an album that had a flat out bombed critically to this year where Justice received more critical love and had that smash single. How did Bieber do it? Bieber do it?
He does it the same way Drake does it. You flood the market with enough material that plays to a widely discerning audience that does not give a shit what critics have to say. Because again, like, I recognize that I didn't like Changes and the vast public didn't really care about Changes. But by the time Bieber was churning out multiple singles that played into his image and storytelling, and when you have a large audience that loves the redemption arc, he's going to come back. And I'll say this for Justin Bieber, as much as I think that Holy and Lonely are just terrible songs.
Oh my God.
Peaches I actually like. I think Peaches is fine. It's not great.
As Sean Fay Wolf said of Diamond X Studios, he said, basically Justin Bieber made a Rex Orange County song.
Oh, he totally did. And that's not to be surprising because, again, when you look at that, Summer Walker is ripping off Jhené Aiko and Snow Allegra wholesale, if you want to continue in the R&B vein. But a lot of mainstream artists will pull from the indie scene and pull from lesser-known artists in order to make their sound. The question will be how many of the artists behind the scenes are actually co-writing for those major acts. Like, I've seen Mike the Snare, who is another producer on YouTube, bring this up. Maroon 5 is just a half step away. It's just a half step away from their Tame Impala phase, and we need to be prepared for that to happen.
Bruh, don't even get me started on that. They're on their Black Bear phase right now. We'll get to that.
Well, but that's my point. When you have artists who have better taste than they have ability, then you see people who are actually trying to enable this. So, and I'll give Bieber some credit. He tried to give like Daniel Caesar a bit of light in the sun. He tried to jumpstart more of Giveon's career. He's at least throwing his name behind cosigns that are actually good artists to a point. I still think Daniel Caesar kind of mishandled things, and Giveon just kind of breaks my heart because I really want him to be more interesting. But we're coming to the point where Bieber is kind of just like, he's mayonnaise.
Yeah.
You put him on everything, and as much as he's annoying, and as much as you don't just want to have something that's just mayo on your sandwich, sometimes it's just enough to get in the door other things that are more interesting.
And at least it's not Drake.
Yeah. Although I've got weird, the Drake album this year, I already said way too much, especially in conflation with the Kanye release. I don't know how much you want to get into that, but
we'll get into it when we get to Drake.
All right, sure.
And
okay.
Kanye.
Yeah.
But I just said what I said because at least it's not Drake. Butter from BTS, the longest running #1 at 9 weeks, misses the top 10 of the year-end list at number 11. Does this restore the faith that sales doesn't have as much impact as streaming?
No, it just tells me that Billboard doesn't measure sales as much as streaming or radio. The thing with Butter, and I've said this from the very jump, is that it was inflated based upon how the sales were being calculated for that song in particular. this is not something that the fan base will disagree with, because they openly admitted how they would fundraise in order to get people to buy singles, and how they would get the song to its long run number one status. But at the same time, you have to attach an asterisk to it. Like, in terms of, you prioritized one channel over the others. You didn't try to work to make sure that it got streaming traction. You didn't work to make sure that it drove radio spins. And that, to me, I think is very interesting, because it tells me that less that the fan base doesn't care, but that the label is savvy enough to realize that they don't really need to rely upon other channels to drive the song to success. So Columbia doesn't have to care about getting the song on American radio. Columbia doesn't have to care about getting the playlist placements. Now, with BTS changing labels as of recently, I can imagine that in terms of any future marketing plans for an upcoming project, it's probably going to be a little bit more robust in other channels, and the fan base is going to go gaga for it anyway. But we're encountering two other factors. Number one, I think that given that Billboard has slightly readjusted their own internal formulas, the whole sales gimmickry will not work to the same degree it did in 2021. The other thing is that BTS, at least certain members, they're going on like a short-term hiatus. They're taking some steps away. I'm not sure of all the explicit details in this, but it seems like the group is taking some necessary time off to do their own thing, maybe pursue solo projects and going into that lane. And you know what? Just letting that pace itself out, letting it do its own thing, I think that could be actually really beneficial to the group. Because again, the thing is, I've never not been a fan of BTS. It's always been, there's stuff I like from them, stuff I don't like from them. And I think it always gets a lot of unfortunate, misplaced attention when I come down critically upon them or do not acclaim them as the greatest ever, because I have more complicated opinions on them. I want them to have better production. I want them to have more of a balance in their sound. I wish they lean more into the J-pop side of their earlier releases, which go a little bit more into R&B, and that's actually a really good sound for them. And I actually really liked that B project that came out in late 2020. And I wish, and that proved they could go to number one based off of, some of the sales gimmickry as well, but also going on primarily on a Korean sound, and have that little bit of not compromising of their identity, of their unique artistic prowess in order to chase the sales. Here's the thing, and it's not just the thing I would point out in BTS. I get pissed off when Jay-Z does it all the time. When Jay-Z numbs down his sound in the 2000s to go for the pop hits. And honestly, this is not new with BTS. You can point to all sorts of acts doing it. Yeah. Nicki Minaj did it. Eminem did it. A lot of rock acts do it for their crossover single.
Rock acts. I was about to say rock acts.
Yep.
If you want dumbing down, rock is for you. We'll be talking about that later.
I know. But here's the thing. Like, I feel like it kind of, I'm not bothered by how Billboard charts or counts this sort of thing. I'm more concerned about how the music actually sounds. And I think that BTS can make great music. But I think in terms of the label pursuing this method of monetization that honestly exploits the fan base as much as it actually plays into their strengths, doesn't do the band any favors. And it could result in the band burning out, because again, this has happened before. We can point to history in terms of the people who have achieved that brief chart run, that brief flash of popularity, and then they implode. And as much as BTS has the diehard fans, and that will be able to sustain them behind the implosion, how much is the industry going to really accommodate everything that happened? Especially when it starts cutting into the margins of other artists like Lil Nas X or Dua Lipa, both of who got denied number one hits, and some of them which were even on their own label. Once you realize that, again, Billboard is an industry publication, see where it goes. Yeah.
Now, rapid fire. I name a song, you give me your peripheral thoughts about said song or charting quality or both.
Okay.
Stay, Kid Leroy, Justin Bieber / Without You by Kid Leroy.
Kid Leroy should not have a career. This is me being extremely harsh, but I'm sorry. Kid Leroy is the sort of artist who is deeply intolerable. When you realize that so much of his career is built upon nepotism and that he brings very little to his copy of a copy style of pop songwriting that is just basically ripping off of Juice WRLD wholesale, I have very little patience for it. I don't like either song.
Positions by Ariana Grande.
Good song, not the song I would have pushed as a single. I think it's got the most immediately recognizable hook. It feels more like a holdover from 2020. I really wish she had pushed Nasty as a single. I just think that has like a great slow burn, but the best R&B songs never get properly pushed.
No, not on Billboard.
Yeah.
Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. This plays high. I was sort of surprised by its late release.
This is one the industry really wanted to make a thing. And you could tell people, like, I think it's a poor lead single, especially coming off of Equals as an album, because there's more on that project that I think deserves more attention.
Oh, yeah.
Bad Habits is meh. It's not worth caring about. It's going to wind up on a bunch of worst lists eventually at some point. I don't know why. I feel it's harmless for what it is, but it's very easy to hate because Ed Sheeran is easy to hate.
Speaking of Minecraft, Glass Animals, Heat Waves.
I can't stand this song. I thought the album that it came from was terrible. Dreamland is such a massive step down when it comes for Glass Animals. For this to be the fluke indie hit of the year is genuinely kind of crap. I thought this song was garbage for over a year now, and I still don't think it's good. So you'll know where this eventually winds up.
We all know this is on the worst hit songs of the year list for Mark. Forever After All by Luke Combs. We don't need that spoiler.
Utterly harmless. Luke Combs is going to do his love song thing. He's doing his Tim McGraw thing. I get what he is doing. I just think it's a little boring. I think Luke Combs can do more interesting things instead of leaning into the boyfriend country.
Yeah, a lot of boyfriend country this year. It was insufferable. We're going to get to 2 songs on here that were utterly...
Sure.
Let's just do the utterly piss poor country songs right now. Fancy Like, Walker Hayes.
Crap. But it's so obviously crap, I honestly don't want to make a big deal about it. Because the song wants you to hate it a lot more than you do. I think the Kesha remix just makes me very, very sad. Because it shouldn't have
this is what Kesha's reduced to now.
No, not even that. It's just it highlights why the song doesn't work. I'm saving a lot of my commentary on this until I get to my worst list specifically, because of course this is making it in some capacity, but probably not number 1. I got to be honest, because
please tell me Good Time by Nico Moon's not your number 1.
That's not my number 1 either. I have Good Time by Nico Moon is just badly produced and empty. There's worse things than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed with that song. I'll have more thoughts on it later, but does anyone need to tell me that Walker Hayes is bad? Actually, here's what I will say. While I have your audience, there is an artist who is on Monument Records, the same label that Walker Hayes is signed to. There's only 2 other artists. There's only 2 artists on that label. It's basically a revived label that used to be around in the 60s and 70s. And then Shane McAnally bought the branding and revived the label. The second artist on the label is called Caitlin Smith. She's put out 2 albums. One's called Starfire. One's called Supernova. One's in 2018. One's in 2020. They're excellent. Go check them out.
Yes, I will check them out. Because I've been listening to a lot of Jason Isbell recently, and I've been getting on my countryside.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
I listened to Reunions yesterday. My goodness.
And honestly, I think Reunions is probably his weakest album, in my opinion, at least in terms of the past 10 years.
What you know about Rolling Down in the Deep, Mark?
I have a mixed relationship with Astronaut in the Ocean. I think it's not nearly as bad as some people think it is, but it's also
I don't think it's as bad. either.
I if it makes your worst list, I get it. If it makes your best list, I get it. For me, it's kind of a novelty song. Like it's kind of hard for me to hate it in that mold. Like it's sort of in the lane of I get what it's trying to do. The aesthetic kind of throws me off, but the hook is also so good that I kind of it fits in a weird mold for me. I couldn't justify it putting on any list, and it's probably not going to make either list of mine.
What you know about Love by Pop Smoke? And I hate that I had to put this Pop Smoke song on here because I could have put the baby one on here with Little Baby, but I was like, no.
Honestly, and this is something I'm actually kind of depressed about. I wish I could get into Pop Smoke's material more. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. And I'm lukewarm on this song because this song feels like a Ja Rule song from 2001. And like, or it feels like, or really, actually, it feels like one of 50 Cent's equivalences to playing to a pop audience in 2001, 2002. And I'm like, okay, I guess, but it doesn't move me in any way. It's just there.
My ex's best friend, Machine Gun Kelly, Black Bear.
I own Machine Gun Kelly's 2020 album on vinyl. Don't ask what I paid for it; it was too much. But at the same time, I think this song is great, unironically.
I think this song's great, unironically too. It was on my rap.
Yeah, it's fun. It's way too fun. I will say this: I'm legit bothered that Machine Gun Kelly has failed to capitalize on it. Like, why was Bloody?
Oh my God!
Why was Bloody Valentine not a huge smash hit radio single? Why was Forget Me Too not amazingly huge throughout the summer of 2021? That would go toe to toe with Olivia Rodrigo in a heartbeat if promoted well. And then you give Halsey her best hit of her career. Like, again, the mismanagement of that song and Machine Gun Kelly.
Paper Cuts.
Oh, Paper Cuts is awful. But again, this is mismanagement that drives me nuts. It's not. I get the feeling that nobody quite expected that album to do as well as it did. And given that Machine Gun Kelly is not on a rock label, I think he had no clue, and his promotional team had no clue how to pitch that album properly. So,
no.
And you would probably know better than I am.
That Bloody Valentine actually got picked up by my active rock station.
But probably not many spins.
It got actually a decent amount of spins on that station, but not by many other active rock stations. No.
But that's the thing. If Machine Gun Kelly was not on Bad Boy and Interscope, I think that song would have done a lot more, and I think it would have been a lot more effective. And it drove me nuts that, yeah, he got his biggest hit effectively, and he got probably his best hit effectively. And it feels very unfortunate that he couldn't do more with it.
Undercooked. It feels undercooked.
Yes.
Yeah, because I like that album. I don't like the shade thrown at Slipknot, headliners of this festival.
Yeah.
But
again, this is MGK, who is not media trained and kind of a dumbass. Going in and trying to play to a rock audience and failing miserably.
Oh yeah. Up by Cardi B.
I actually have really complicated feelings on the song because I don't think the song is. I think it's fine. It should be better than it is. But where is the album? I feel like this was a predecessor to an album we didn't get. Like, I feel like Cardi B has had, ever since she put out Invasion of Privacy in 2018, we've been expecting a Cardi B follow-up. And she's had the singles to get there. You had this, you had, I still like Press. We had Up as well. We had WAP as well. She's got a selection of tracks that could be complemented to whatever is coming. So where is it? So, and that's my frustration. I feel like this was set up, but we didn't get the payoff.
Yeah, I don't know like where Cardi B's going. Polo G, Rap Star.
Arguably his best pop song. It's gonna make my best list.
Heartbreak Anniversary by Giveon.
God, I want this to make one of my best lists, but it might wind up on the chopping block. I've mentioned this a little bit. I don't know what the hell is going on with Givion's career. I feel like he got some of the push in early 2021, and I was really excited. Like he had some songs that were really being prepped as like kind of mid-tier hits, but that's where you want to start with a guy like him. He's not an easy pitch to the mainstream market. He plays a more restrained, more atmospheric, a slightly more mature style of R&B. He's basically getting the push that Daniel Caesar squandered. And kind of a similar push to what Her has gotten. And I'm sitting there, Heartbreak Anniversary, it's such a good song, but where's the follow through? Again, it feels like he was supposed to have his huge year outside of Justin Bieber with Peaches, and it just didn't happen.
Beautiful Mistakes by Maroon 5 featuring Megan Thee Stallion. And Mark spits out his
drink. Oh, God. You know what? I like Megan, but she did this as a favor, as a label favor, and nothing else.
Oh my God.
I honestly don't. I don't think that I don't think that Maroon 5 album is terrible. Like it's not good, but it's not terrible. It's better than Red Pill Blues.
Oh.
As if that's the high standard. I know we're expecting out of Maroon 5, but at the same time, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? Beautiful Mistakes is gonna wind up on worst list, but it's not. It's pointless. It's
an Adam Levine Black Bear special.
I know that, but at the same time, like how much? Like it's Black Bear at his least offensive. It's Adam Levine at his least offensive. It's Megan Thee Stallion at her least offensive. And the song exists. It has the least good, and for some critics, that will be enough to put it on their worst list. But I just can't care about it.
I should have put Girls Want Girls on here, but it's Way Too Sexy by Drake, featuring Young Thug, and I'm going to do Off the Grid by Kanye to offset this.
Well, we got Way Too Sexy here by Drake featuring Future and Young Thug. I've seen people defend this. I disagree. On a lot of levels, I get that Drake is now in his dad joke territory. Here's my opinion. It's really bad dad jokes. Like my dad wouldn't even make these jokes. It feels just kind of embarrassing and not in a way that Drake can redeem himself for. Drake's been corny before, but this is just like hack comedian corny. Like you don't need to endorse this, especially when Drake can do more and is so obviously choosing not to. He knows this is playing to the lowest common denominator and he can get away with it. And that just like, come on, Drake, you're better than this. Like everyone on the song is better than this. Come up with the terrible production, the bad sample. It feels gimmicky in a way it shouldn't. Like Drake should not have to lean on gimmicks.
Yeah, Drake shouldn't have to lean on gimmicks. Kanye shouldn't have to lean on gimmicks either, But I like Donda better than DLB, but that's not saying much.
Yeah, I didn't care for either of them, but for very different reasons.
Yeah, even though you made the same review for both. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, don't say that. What are you talking about? I clearly put an effort for two fully formed, proper reviews that clearly said a lot about the album's depth and production and societal commentary that came out of them.
Yeah. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, exactly.
Starting over by Chris Stapleton.
Excellent song. It's a country song. I'm shocked is a hit. I'm kind of happy that Chris Stapleton has settled into his role of, I'm indie per se, even though he's on Mercury Nashville, and he's still managing to get those routinely just solid as hell singles out. Like it's not my favorite of the year by any stretch. I think Chris Stapleton has better songs on that album, but Starting Over is it's a great song from a great album. It's honestly kind of boringly great. Like it's the sort of song where I've been so immersed in the indie scene that I'm like, I can't complain about it. It's so much better than the rest of the mainstream. I'm not going to complain, but at the same time, I'm like, I know you can do a bit better, Chris Stapleton. I've heard you do it.
Sorry, Mark. Have to. Bang. AJR.
All right, here's my surprise. I don't hate this as much as I used to. Not even close. And here's why. there was a musical remix that was kind of like a sum up of the entire year in 2020, where this song actually had a prominent role integrated into a mashup, and I was actually shocked how well they did it. And my general opinion is that if you incorporate a song into a mashup well, it will on average elevate songs more than you ever think it will. And actually more to the point, there's a couple of songs that will likely wind up on my honorable mention specifically because the mashup elevation factor. I don't think like Bang by AJR is not good. Like it still
No, it's
sounds
not.
the production is bad, the vocal delivery isn't good, the lyrics are
There are worse songs on that album.
Yes, there are worse songs on the album, and there's better songs on that album. Like I'm not gonna say like again, I would say the most recent AJR album is it's bad, but it's not atrocious. Like it doesn't anger me to the same extent. I'm kind of sick of being the poster boy, being sick of being angry at AJR because that's kind of been my role for the past 4.5 years. Like
that's scathing. That scathing Neo Theater review really put you in that role, man.
No, it was The Click in 2017, a review I filmed when I was sick.
No, I forgot it was The Click, man.
Yeah, it was, and that album is atrocious. But again, like I'm again going to quote my buddy Mike the Snare. He's like, some of these reviews are very fun to watch. It's a funnier review to watch than it is actually engaging with the album, and I think that's kind of a shame because, again, I don't think I'm entirely proud of that review. But that sort of overly hyperbolic style is very easy for a critic to do, and I wish more people actually grasp my philosophical issues with why I dislike that album so much beyond just the sheer sonic abhorrence of it all.
Or watch your Spanish Love Songs review, which I'm going
Exactly.
to see, by the way.
That album is fantastic, held up entirely. Yeah.
And then the last song we're going to do in the pop section before we move on to the rock section is a rock song.
Yeah.
Beggin' by Måneskin.
This one hurts. This one actually, here's the thing. I was rooting for this person. I was rooting for this band specifically because, okay, it's a cover, which kind of sucks that the only way a rock song can get onto the year-end list is through a cover. That does stink. My larger opinion on this track is that it's based off of the MadCon cover, which I don't think is great, all things per se. And my issue with the song is that it just kind of feels like a demo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Somebody actually commented that to me, and he's like, I think Rick Beato said, it sounds like a demo, and it sounds like a first take of a demo on one of his videos.
And you know what? I can't get, like, it drives me a little bit nuts that this got as big as it did. Not because the band is untalented. I've actually heard some of their other stuff, and they're pretty decently talented, especially some of their native Italian that I think is actually pretty decent. My frustration is that if this is what's getting shipped to radio in terms of representative of alternative rock, or just getting pitched off of streaming, I think there is missed opportunities. I think there's huge gaps in what could be better, because I think there's a market for music like this done better. Yes. And it breaks my
this is going to be the entire rock section now.
It breaks my heart that songs like this actually, like, it's not even a bad song. Actually, it is kind of bad because I think the vocals sound really awful. But the lead singer has gotten better. Like, there's other Måneskin songs that, especially globally, have done really well, and I wish they would have gotten more attention.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of Måneskin, rock section now.
Yeah, all right.
With the meteoric rise of Måneskin on an international and U.S. level, do you see any other bands trying to reach the audience that Måneskin's trying to capture?
I think that's a really tough question because that particular band got their traction based off of Eurovision.
Yeah.
And Eurovision is such a crapshoot when it comes to driving viral success. It's happened more often than you might think. It's because that's also the success behind Arcade by Duncan Lawrence, which I think is awful song. But at the same time, you've seen Mainskin manage to drive some traction, specifically globally, and I think it proves there's an audience for it. In the same way that I'd argue that Greta Van Fleet has an audience. They're playing to obviously retro trends, and it comes to this style of rock, and there's still an audience that wants that. I just think that there should be a higher grade of quality in looking for it.
AKA the Struts do it better than Måneskin.
I mean,
I think the Struts do it better, but
yeah.
How do you feel that there wasn't a new rock album technically in the Billboard 200 year end? Is this a troubling sign for rock artists who depend more on album sales than actual singles?
That was never the case. Here's the thing that drives me nuts about this. I think that there's a lot of rock artists who used to have predominant popularity, but basically got sick of playing the game. And because they realized they didn't have to. And you know what? That's fine. You don't have to play the game. You can go off and do your own thing outside of the pop charts.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll quote Slayer, actually. The frontman of Slayer actually said something around the same time as when the Black Album came out, and I want to say 91. I think it's 91. He said, you know what? Like, you might disparage me for having my corner, my little corner, but I like my corner. My corner is just fine for me. All fine and dandy. If you're a rock band, if you're a metal band, you want to get into your corner, that's fine. But
don't bitch when you're not included in the everyone corner.
Exactly. If you don't, and there's a lot of other complicated factors when it comes to the fact that no rock stars are playing the game. I think rock's refusal to adapt to TikTok or social media is a failure. I think that rock has utterly stopped trying to chase a pop audience. That's a failure, especially now when we're now having a prevalence of pop rock coming back into the mainstream. There's a whole lot of acts who would be primed for this to come in, especially on the punk side, and you're not seeing it. It's bewildering.
When Papa Roach is one of the bands that use TikTok the best, it's a scary ass time. I'm being dead serious though.
Oh, I know you are. And I don't think here's the thing. I think what's gonna happen is that the old guard is just gonna eventually we'll see continuously diminishing returns, and they'll crap on the new guard as, hey, they're playing the social media game that we don't want to play anymore. And they should say there's space for both of us. Sadly, they likely won't.
No one's gonna say that because they're ignorant rock stars.
I mean, I didn't say it. I mean, I thought it, but I didn't say it.
I said it, but
yeah, exactly.
One problem with some rock artists is the utter refusal for current industry trends, such as social media platforms as Instagram and TikTok. How you feel like helping or hurting? We already answered that question.
But I want to expand on it a little bit more.
Yeah,
because I feel like there is a lot. I feel like a lot of rock stars have utterly quit playing the pop game, specifically with regards to their marketing and how they present themselves. I think there's always going to be an audience that will like rock music, which is good in my opinion. I think there's always going to be an audience that will go looking for it. But the problem is that rock has stopped approaching people. Rock has stopped saying, hey, there are people outside of what our target demographic is that might like our stuff. Like, that was the big win when Metallica put out the Black Album, because it won over more people than just the folks who like thrash.
Grunge.
Well, beyond the grunge people, like, that it also brought in all the people who, hey, alt rock is kind of cool, and hey, this metal act. It was a gateway album, and it drives me a little insane that more rock acts don't go for the gateway album approach. I'll say this: it's one reason I'm really excited for the next Ghost album, because Ghost is a great gateway band. And you know what? It's honestly one of the reasons why I kind of wish I could like Greta Van Fleet more. Because, you know what? Yes, they're utterly derivative of 70s hard rock. I know this. They know this, even if they refuse to admit it. But at the same time, I kind of at least appreciate the fact that they'll write stuff with hooks. or that they'll at least try to play to the image that they have. And there's some, it might not work, and their production might not be good, and their frontman sounds like a tased cat. But like, sorry, but again, I think it's going to be very interesting to see which rock bands will pivot, especially with the rise of the new crop.
I think I list a couple here: Måneskin, Bring Me the Horizon, Travis Barker and His Disciples, and Jarvis Johnson and Papa Roach as all using social media well. In my question there, as bands that use TikTok well, use the trends very well.
I think you're bringing up a group of people, but I don't think they all use them in the same ways.
They don't use them in the same ways, but they use them. They all use them particularly well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Bring Me the Horizon has the backing of whatever's left of the scene audience that will help them. Travis Barker is coasting on a lot of people remembering the Blink-182 albums as being better than they are. And a lot of the people he's associated with feels very kind of sketchy. I gotta be honest. There's something sketchy tied to the whole Travis Barker cult, especially when he produces their stuff and the production's not that good. Gonna say it. But at the same time, like, I think people are looking at those seeds, and if it wants to have any sort of sustained longevity, there needs to be more organic growth. And I'll say it's got to come from the kids. It can't be from the old guard.
Like, it can't come from the old guard. It's gotta come from Will Owen, from like
Kenny Hoopla. Yeah, like I really like what Kenny Hoopla is doing, or at least I did before Travis Barker got his hands all over it. Like, Kenny Hoopla was doing something that was kind of like equivalent to what Block Party did in the 2000s, and it sounded great. There was so much promise there. So going for a pop punk sound that just doesn't pay off the landing.
Didn't fit.
You know what? He fit, the production didn't, and that hurts so much.
Yeah. But I'm happy to report we're going to do our rapid fire now.
All right, I might not know all of these, so.
But Teardrops, Bring Me the Horizon, #1 on mainstream rock airplay.
I mean,
that's a win. That's a win.
It is, but I wish I liked that project from Bring Me better.
I'll say this about Bring Me. I'm excited about what they're doing in 2022.
I think the next tour they're planning and what they're trying to do in terms of their next round is really exciting. I wish I liked the music more. That's just me.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just that audience that they connect to. Monsters by all time low. By all time low.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's not even just a yikes thing. The response that they put out was terrible. Why are we keeping All Time Low around? Like, let's be real. This is a band that's been around that might have, in my opinion, at least about 6 good songs to their, like 6 good to great songs to their mention, and Monsters is not one of them. And it wasn't, and when they brought on so many people for the remix, they got overshadowed. Sorry. I have no reason to get behind this as much as I did.
Oh yeah. Don't Back Down by Mammoth WBH. Did you listen to that album this year?
I didn't know. I heard things about it. I'm hearing it was very generic.
Yeah, it is generic, but it's well done. It's like Tremonti, if Tremonti done by Van Halen.
Yeah, that sounds like it would go over all right there. All right.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I liked it enough.
Yeah.
Follow You by Imagine Dragons.
Someone needs to get Imagine Dragons away from Alex the Kid. I'm sorry. God. At this point, the production style was played out 8 years ago. I don't think Imagine Dragons are a terrible band, but this is not helping them. Like, this is the sort of thing that just makes me winsome. Like, you guys should be better than you are. Night Visions was so good. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. And then they released that Wreck song, which we're going to talk about, which is really good.
Which one?
And then Wrecked. Wrecked from the same album.
Oh, yeah. I didn't care for that either.
Me and John from ARTV liked it.
Yeah, I get it. All right.
But Adrenaline by 09.
I missed this one. Yeah.
He's actually from the next county over in Langhorne.
Oh, damn. Really? Okay.
Yeah. All my favorite songs by Weezer. And why are we getting 4 Weezer albums next year?
I'll believe that when I see it happen. Again, like this, like Weezer is the sort of act that like I remember all the times that Weezer has promised projects over the course of the past decade. So if we get 4 projects, again, if it's a big if.
Yeah, it's a big if. And I like the song Fine Enough.
I mean, it would not be something I go back to, but again,
no, it's not something I go back to.
I haven't gone back to anything Weezer's put out in all year. I reviewed them twice. I don't care. Like there's not enough there for me to care. It feels like it's playing to the raw basics of the sound in which they're trying to do, and it's just not enough there.
Nowhere Generation by Rise Again. Number 4 on mainstream rock and number 18 on alternative.
I was actually really harsh on this song initially because I reviewed the song on my Instagram at one point at Spectrum Pulse. And I was actually pretty harsh on it. I didn't think I liked it that much. I didn't think there was that much to it. I thought it was pretty flimsy and just otherwise just not impressive. I actually really like that album. I think the album is actually a really good return to form. I'm shocked by how well it's doing overall. Like it's the sort of song I thought, oh, damn. I'm a little bit surprised that Rise Against going to Loma Vista and getting a decent producer for once in years, decades probably, is actually enough for me to care about them. But yeah, I really like it. It's a good song.
Serotonin by Girl in Red.
I never heard that Girl in Red album. I saw all the negative reviews and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Oh, she got negative reviews on her album?
You haven't seen Fantano's review, have you?
No, did he give it a not good?
Not good, but he went in hard.
Oh, that's not good. Foo Fighters singles, Making a Fire, Shame and Waiting on a War charted on both.
All the wrong singles. You had Love Dies Young right there. It's the best song on the album.
They're doing it right now. Love Dies
Young. Good. About time. It's the best song on the album. It's legitimately fun, and I wish they had pushed that earlier. The other Foo Fighters songs, I can take it or leave it. Foo Fighters have been making the same album for 20 years, and I'm honestly just kind of done with it.
I am seeing them in July.
They're great live. You'll have a good time.
I'm just crossing it off my bucket list because when am I going to see Dave Grohl in a stadium?
Yeah, exactly.
Shy Away by 21 Pilots.
Excellent song. Deserved to be a pop crossover hit. It only gets better, honestly, in my opinion. I think it's the sort of track that 21 Pilots could have pushed harder, and I'm shocked they didn't.
Yeah, I was shocked that it didn't cross over as hard as it actually did.
Yeah.
Self-Destructor by Chevelle.
I feel bad for Chevelle. I feel like they're stuck in a really terrible label situation, and I don't think that song did what it was supposed to do, or at least enough of what it was supposed to do.
That album's pretty great, though. Nourishing.
It's good. It's definitely good. It's not my thing per se, but like again, it was an album that needed to go over the top. Otherwise, Chevelle was going to be screwed forever, and it kind of sucks that I feel they're going to wind up getting screwed.
Yeah, I feel so bad because I saw them at Rockville, and it felt like it was like going to be like one of their last shows.
Yeah.
I Want to Be Your Slave by Måneskin. 88 on alternative.
They've gotten better. This is the song I think I wouldn't mind this crossing over, but it never will. It never will in the American market. Like it's that title. I think people will just look at that title and they're like, oh, it's sketched out. We're not going to do this. But overall, it's like, I think it's a better song. I don't love it, but it's better.
Yeah. That Mamma Mia song, that was a little weird. The single they released
Yeah,
late in the year.
I would agree with that. I would agree. It's a little weird.
Mercy by Aaron Jones. I really loved this album this year.
I missed this album this year. It didn't really. It kind of passed me by. I got to be honest. A lot of rock projects this year outside of specific lanes just kind of passed me by, and this was one of them.
Yeah, I would suggest going back to this one. This one has really good blues rock.
Okay.
If you like that gritty blues rock,
Oh no, wait! I heard this Aaron Jones album. I remember hearing this, and this was something I was contemplating reviewing, and it just never did because I've heard. Here's the thing: this brand of blues rock, you hear it a lot in mainstream rock, and I just find it to be a little played out. I gotta be honest. I wish they did more with it. It's a little played out. Yeah. I wish it was a little more.
Yeah, he said he's going to do a lot more playing on the next one, but he said this one was his first effort. So.
Okay.
That's what he told Eddie Trump.
We'll see.
We Are Between by Modest Mouse, number 12 on Alternative.
I listened to that Modest Mouse album like 2 times. I was considering doing a review on it, and then I realized I have nothing to say. Yeah. Like at this point, Modest Mouse is so far past their sell-by date. I'm like, you might get 1 or 2 good songs. And
this was a number 1 hit on Alternative.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all because Modest Mouse is in that point in their career where they can get a number 1 hit on Alternative. Couldn't get it in 99 and 2000 when they were making some of the best albums of that era, but I digress.
At least they got a number 1 hit. Did Float On hit number 1 on Alternative? I think it did.
Float On probably did. It should have.
Heat Above, Greta Van Fleet. A band we were talking about.
I don't hate this. Again, mostly because for as much as Greta Van Fleet can be excruciatingly annoying, I thought the song was all right. I didn't really hate it.
Another guy.
Greta Van Fleet needs to do more. They need to do more.
Another guy we were talking about, Kenny Hoopla, Stella, number 17 on Alternative.
Surprised it did as well as it did. I think it's wasn't my favorite off the album, but I'm all right with that. I'm happy that Kenny Hoopla is getting traction. That actually is really encouraging.
Only Love Can Save Me Now / And So It Went, Pretty Reckless. Number 25 for Only Love and number 9 on Mainstream Rock.
I kind of had some distance from. I have never been able to get into the Pretty Reckless the same way that some people have. I've just got a little bit of distance from them. I know why some people go crazy over them. I just never have.
Yeah, I like the Only Love Can Save Me Now song because it features the 2 guys from Soundgarden, Kim and Matt. The And So It Went song, it features Tom Morello. It features a solo from Tom Morello. It didn't do much for me. But Only Love Can Save Me Now feels much more bigger than And So It Went, in my opinion.
That's reassuring. Okay.
We talked about Wrecked by Imagine Dragons. Animals by Architects, 31 on Mainstream Rock.
This one hurts. Because, you know what? Holy Hell was so good. And then the Architects album this year was not good at all. Like, I tried. I really did. But it felt so much smaller. It felt like this was a band that had a lot of ideas and had a lot of emotional catharsis they were trying to get out of Holy Hell. So whatever they were going to put out afterwards was going to be a come down, and that's not fair to them. And I get that. But my God, that last album was underwhelming. Like the writing took a step back. The production really took a step back. And even then, I'm not a huge metalcore guy. So I listened to the project. I'm like, okay, fine. But that was not enough for me. Sorry.
I liked it a little more than you did. I had 7 songs from my rap, the Architect songs from this album.
Yeah.
But that's the type of sound I like. But
and that's the point. I'm not going to disparage anyone from getting into that metalcore sound. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it's just there's only like a few bands I like that are metalcore, and they are one of them.
Yep. Totally fair.
So, Transparent Soul by Willow. 35 on Alternative.
I wish I liked this more. I genuinely do. I think that Willow album is a total mess. Like, I've heard it. It's not good. It has no clear direction. The production is a total disaster. The writing isn't good either. It's the sort of project that if it came out of anyone else besides Willow Smith, it would have gone nowhere. And Transparent Soul, I kind of think is a product of that. It feels like it's coasting by on Birthright rather than trying to say something interesting or new. And that sucks. I hate saying that about a song that otherwise had some promise. And like Willow Smith has got that other song she's doing with her partner or an ex-partner, I'm not sure. It's called The Anxiety. It's Meet Us at Our Spot.
Oh yeah, the Meet Me at Our Spot song. I've heard the live version. I love that song.
I think it's all right. It's not a song that I think works for me specifically, but hey, I think it's better than this.
Yeah, I think it's better than Transparent Soul. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Colors by Black Pumas. Finally getting on an alternative. 37 on alternative. It's like a 3-year-old song.
I don't know. The Black Pumas popularity kind of mystifies me. Like, what connections do you have to get as many charting hits as you do?
Yeah. It shouldn't mystify me with the kind of music that they play, but they're so good that I don't care.
They are good at what they do. I will give them that. I would definitely enjoy going to a Black Pumas show. But at the same time, it always weirds me out when I see them because I'm like, yeah, you're good, but you should be great, and you're not, and it's weird.
It was my number 2 most listened to song on Spotify rap this year.
Hey, it happens. Like, again, I get the appeal. I wish I liked it more.
Yeah, I Want to Be Your Slave was my number 1, by the way.
Fair enough.
Rainy Day by Ice Nine Kills.
Would not have been my pick from that album, but I get why folks like that album. I think I get Ice Nine Kills now, which I'm actually pretty happy to say.
Yes.
They're not my favorite. I think they've got a melodic sensibility that really helps them. I'm also not going to continue off being as much of my snooty critic side as I normally am because they've already lampooned it on the album, and it was really funny. But
Hip to Be Scared was a single.
Hip to Be Scared deserved to be. Hip to Be Scared ruled. And I can laugh at myself enough to say, yeah, I get it. I'm okay with that. That's fine. I'm happy Ice Nine Kills is getting popularity. I'm worried how far they can push this approach.
That's what I'm concerned about too.
What I wish they would do, and this is my thinking, is that as much as they've gone on the traditional slasher route, I'd love to see them do the psychological horror route. Something that's like deeper, darker, nastier, requiring a little bit more subtlety. It would see them take an advancement as an artist. I'm not sure they could do, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
But I love the album. I one of my 2 favorite metalcore albums of the year, which goes to my next favorite metalcore album of the year, which I'm not doing it. Spirit Box, yep, Constance, which was not a single, but I decided to do Constance because I love that song.
Well, the album is good. The album is legit good. I'm not a metalcore fan, but I can appreciate what that album did. I did review it. It was all right. It's not something I got super behind, but I respected what it was doing.
Yeah, of like acts that can cross over in metalcore, Spirit Box and Ice Nine Kills are right.
Yeah.
Turnstile Blackout.
This song rules.
Talk about a band that has all the crossover ability in the world. They're getting radio play right now, and I love it.
That shocks me, honest to God, because they're the sort of punk act that did not get radio play 5 years ago. Bands in this lane where the immediate comparison I have with Turnstile is White Lung, and White Lung never got radio play. This is the sort of alternative hardcore I think has a lot of crossover potential and a lot of momentum behind it. I think there's other stuff in the hardcore scene that deserves more attention, like Portrayal of Guilt, In Spite Of, the most recent round of the emo acts, or like some of the really heavier, nastier emo acts that have come out of that scene.
Oh yeah.
What the hell was See Yourself Space Cowboy? Well, yeah, a lot of Dispute for sure, but a lot of Dispute I honestly think they've got a legacy. They're kind of veterans in the scene. I think in the new wave is really promising.
Oh yeah, the new wave is really promising. But Turnstile getting radio play is really promising, and it's just
I don't know how long it's going to last though, because they have definitely an indie style that I think not everyone's going to get on board with, and I think
yeah,
going to
they're
hit.
getting on active rock stations right now.
I'm worried about when they get backlash. That's what I'm gonna. Because it's gonna come. I'm worried what will happen. That's all I'm saying.
An album that you did not like, "Dirty" by Grandson.
Did Kesha show up on this single too in the remix?
No, I think she did.
Hang on, let me check this.
No, she didn't.
Dirty Kesha. No, she was on the Drop Dead remix.
Drop Dead, yeah, Drop Dead. I saw
Okay.
Grandson actually at Rockville. He was okay.
Is he good? Is he good
He's
live?
good. He's good live. He's good live. I thought I saw trash got thrown at him after he said he's like a white progressive vaccinate, but that was just beach balls.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like Grandson at all. I get when somebody's ripping off the 21 Pilots formula and not doing it well. I find him very flimsy. I find him very dark, but in the really phony way that a lot of acts like him get dark, and it's trying to play for this nihilism. I just find it very try hard. I don't think he's impressive as a vocalist. I think he's got good songwriting chops, but the production's not there. The writing is
Kev
not
was
there.
a better producer, and I think
Maybe he'd be better, but I just find his personality and his presentation so obnoxious. It does not click for me.
Yeah. Solar Power by Lorde.
Probably one of the better songs on the album, but again, it was an album that was designed to do more, but it's also an album that was trying to be a giant kiss off to everybody. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing, but I'm not really as engaged with it as I want to be. And that's kind of the disappointing thing. I wanted to like that album a lot more than I do.
One of the most annoying songs of the year, in my opinion. A-OK by Tyler.
I don't like this at all. I get why people like it. I get why people think it's authentic. But to me, it feels very smarmy. It feels
like the lazy song by Bruno Mars.
A little bit, yeah. But in a way, I just don't like it. I get what it's trying to do, but it's the sort of song I just find very, very insufferable.
Patience by Chris Cornell.
I didn't hear it.
That cover was all over rock radio this year.
Well, and that's the thing. I wasn't listening to a lot of rock radio I wasn't listening to a lot of radio this year period. I had way too many albums I was trying to cover.
Yeah, true. California Dreamin' by Dirty Honey. Have you heard about this band?
No, I haven't. Is it any good?
It is. They're sort of like this Aerosmith wannabe type band.
Oh, okay.
They have a cover of Last Child that's pretty good. I would suggest checking out When I'm Gone and Rolling Sevens from their EP.
Okay.
Both did well in the mainstream rock chart. This song was from their debut album. I didn't get around to listening to their debut album, but I think they're decent enough. Rock Revival. They're not better than Rival Sons. I think Rival Sons are the best Rock Revival band.
Well, of that sound, I would agree with you, but I also think they need to find a producer that's actually halfway decent.
You don't think Dave Cobb's decent at that sound?
I wouldn't say Dave Cobb's the one for them. No. Dave Cobb's not great for that style of rock. I think that there's other producers that can give it a little bit more crunch and presence and depth in the mix. Yeah.
I like that album actually, but Surf Curse Freaks.
Didn't hear it. Sorry.
That's the band that sort of got canceled anyway. So
okay,
fine.
Let's move on.
Smile by Wolf Alice.
It's not the song I would have picked from Wolf Alice. Got to be honest. When you have Delicious Things right there, as the best Lana Del Rey song that we never got from Lana. And Lana Del Rey put out 2 albums this year, and neither of them were all that good. Smile represents everything that frustrates me about Wolf Alice, is that their inspiration is really, really obvious. Like I listen to that song, I'm like, oh, sweet, you've heard Hole once.
that I never really got that vibe before, but now that I think about it, yeah.
Like, and here's the thing, I get how a lot of people would not get that because again, Hole was last a thing 25 years ago, 25, nearly 30 years ago. As a rock nerd, I know this, but to most of Wolf Alice's target audience, they wouldn't know. So it's hard for me to get super.
It's hard for me to put one and two together, and I'm 25, so
yeah. So, but it's the sort of thing that I'm like, I just don't. Again, there was better songs from that album, and I think that Wolf Alice not really drilling down onto an identity for their sound continues to make them kind of formless for me.
Yeah, I agree. I sort of agree with that. But am I the only one who has a problem with Lana Del Rey?
No, I have gone off at length about it for the past 7 years.
I just can't get into her music at all. I just think it's boring, baroque, like sleepy. I can't get into it at all.
Hey, if you want the experience of me having talked way too much about that, I've reviewed her since 2014. Everything she's put out, they're all solo reviews and they all do well. So
yeah, I saw your Norman F. Rockwell review, and I'm like, this is my exact thoughts on this record.
And
I'm like, I don't go gaga over Lana Del Rey like people do.
No, here's the thing. I don't either. I get why people do. I have come to accept the fact there will always be that distance.
Yeah. Anticipated albums of 2022.
All right. You got a list here.
I got a list. Yeah, Kendrick. Let's hope. Come on.
I have no idea with that one. Kendrick will drop something when he feels like it, and it's going to come out of nowhere. It will dominate discourse for a solid month.
Oh my god! And that song with Baby Keem dominated discourse for like a month.
It was fun too. He's had 2 songs with Baby Keem. They both were pretty good. And we'll see what happens.
Are we excited for that new MPK album? No.
I think he's trying to get lightning to strike twice. And my big concern with that is there's so few artists, especially who do what he does, to get that to strike twice. And Paper Cut sucked. It sucked so much. And yeah, I think he's in trouble. I think Born with Horns. I kept hearing Born with Horns is going to drop this year. The fact it didn't tells me a lot.
Yeah. An album that we're both looking forward to. Ghost.
I have no idea. Ghost hasn't.
We have no idea. We have no idea. But
Ghost hasn't put out an album since 2018, and judging by how that artist group and collective goes through band members and sounds, I have no idea what it's going to sound like. I keep hearing it's going to be a little bit heavier onto the prog metal side, but will that work with Ghost being as hook driven as they are? I think that's an open question.
I think it worked with Meliodas because that sort of had a prog sort of side to it, and it had hooks.
It did, and I think, but can they, again, it's capturing lightning in a bottle twice.
Yeah. And that last record was so hook driven.
Yeah, it was. Well, and that's the big thing with Prequel. Like, I think there was so much to it in terms of driving that sound. The question of whether or not they can replicate that is open.
Arctic Monkeys, I don't know. Like why? That's my exact thoughts. Like the nose blowing the nose. Like I didn't like their last album at all.
I didn't either. I have no idea what they're going to do with it, though. That's the other thing. I just don't know with Arctic Monkeys anymore. After they put out Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, like it was okay. Like I don't hate the album. I think it did kind of what it was trying to do. I won't defend it, but like I get it. But I'm not the hugest Arctic Monkeys fan. I never have been. So whatever they're going to do next, I guess we'll see.
Korn. Why?
I don't care. I don't. Korn at this point is so far past their expiration date. They're never going to make anything better than what they did years ago. So even if rock radio is going to care, I don't have to. And that suits me fine.
Slash and Miles Kennedy, same thing.
I have a hard time getting invested in either of these albums because they're going to feel like side projects to me. Yes, you guys are phenomenal guitarists, but can you write hooks? Can you write lyrics that I'm going to care about? How much am I going to get invested in your sound? Who's producing the project? Like, I think there's a lot of open questions there. I wish they're going to get past.
I didn't like the single they released.
I didn't hear it. I got to be honest. Like, again, if you're not tied into that world, it feels like a side project, and I'm not going to go out of my way to search for it.
Yeah, true. Frank Turner.
God, I'm worried about this one. I
am so worried.
Because you know what? Billboard, like his albums in the late 2010s were not bad per se. They just weren't as good as they should be. He put out a project in 2020. I actually wound up vetoing from covering because it was a collaboration project. I thought it was just awful. I thought it was terrible. I think it depends on who he's with in the studio, what he's going to focus on, but I just don't know. I'm worried. I legitimately am.
Like we have a lack of album announcements for this year. Eddie Vedder.
Has he put out a solo album before?
Yes, he has the Into the Woods Long Way.
I never got into Eddie Vedder's solo stuff. I'm more of a Pearl Jam guy straight up all the way down, so I can't say with this one.
The single he put out is pretty good. It's more like Tom Petty-esque.
That doesn't surprise me at all. He's always a classic rock nerd.
Zeal and Ardor.
I'm not the biggest fan of this band. I've never really have been. That's been true for a long ass time. So we will have to see.
Block Party. Aforementioned.
Oh, I'm worried about this one. Do we know if Matt Tong is going to be on the project?
Let me see.
Because this is one that is entirely going to be dependent on the lineup that Block Party will have. Because if they've got the original lineup and they've got a decent idea of what they're trying to do, I could be excited for this. But I also remember how Hymns was so mediocre. Okay, then this to me feels like chasing another paycheck. I'm not interested.
Lumineers. This is what I mean by lack of album announcements.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Lumineers does not really bother me because I don't care one way or the other about them. They don't really impress me. I actually saw them live last night at the halftime show of the football game I was at. They're fine, but I'm never gonna be over my heels for them.
Yeah. Were you at the Canadian football Super
Yes, I was actually, or the Grey Cup. Yeah,
Grey Cup. That's awesome. Billy Talent.
Well, speaking of Canadians, Billy Talent has not put out an album since 2016. I really want to do a proper coverage if they put something out in 2022. I think Billy Talent are really underrated. I think they're a really, really solid Canadian rock band that with a lot of presence. I know a lot of Americans aren't hugely familiar with them. Get familiar. They kick a lot of ass. While we're on the subject, Josh Ramsey, the frontman of Marianas Trench, is putting out his solo album coming up, I believe, in 2022. He's already released a lead single with Chad Kroeger.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. And it's good. It's legit good.
I gotta hear this.
Yeah, look it up. You might be surprised.
And then the last one, first album in 13 years, Porcupine Tree.
Oh, I want this to be good so much. I really do. This one is really tough to gauge. I think Porcupine Tree is at a stage where it's a revival that makes sense. I think that Steven Wilson's as good as he's ever been. I didn't like the Future Bikes, but I think that's kind of a one-time thing. I don't expect it to carry over. I hope this kicks ass. I just have just don't suck. Please don't suck.
The first single was pretty good, I thought.
I think it's promising. Again, it's not like my favorite Porcupine Tree album is Light Bulb Sun, and I don't know if they're ever going to match that again. But Chris Maitland's not in the band anymore, but we'll have to see.
And with the lack of album announcements so far in 22, we got a big wave in 21, and then it stalled. What's up with that?
Quite simply, I think that there's a lot of major artists who are taking time off who basically said, yeah, the pandemic was here. We didn't have anything to do. We're going to step away from all this and just do our own thing and percolate in our own environment. So the A-listers took a lot of time off. The B and C listers basically, we need to make money somehow, so we'll put out music. But at the same time, if you can't tour to the same extent, if you can't actively get out on the road or drive a lot of attention to your stuff, I think there's a lot of artists who are probably going to either wind up retiring or just moving out of the field because it's really hard to gain traction, especially when the old guard is squatting at the very top and not doing anything with being at the very top. And the B and C listers are struggling to break in. So you have a really odd situation where you have people who are trying to get into the industry, trying to get that additional traction, and maybe the labels don't have enough behind them. Maybe they're in a situation where their management can't position them in a way to drive that. And what I think we will see more often is less of the bigger names releasing a lot of like bigger music to drive traction. I think it's going to be a lot of smaller indie names that come out of nowhere. They're like, where the hell is this person coming from? And suddenly they are everywhere and we won't see it coming. I think some of it will be driven off the TikTok thing. I think a significant portion of it might just be the industry who hopefully has taken the time to nurture some talent. So when they're ready, they'll come in all at once. Whether it works or not is an open question. But again, if they have taken any time to learn the value of artistic development and artist development, then we might be in for some interesting years. And I don't think it's going to be from the big names. I think that will hurt rock because rock relies on the big names so much. And I think that's going to be a failing of the format. They need to do more to bring new people in.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree with that. It's just they need more to bring in newer, fresher names.
Just new blood probably will help.
Then we'll go to the general field of the Grammys, and then we'll get out of here.
Sure.
Record of the year. I Still Have Faith in You, ABBA. Freedom, John Baptiste. I Get a Kick Out of You, Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga. Peaches by Justin Bieber, Daniel Caesar, and Giveon. Right on Time, Brandy Carlisle. Kiss Me More, Doja Cat and SZA. Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish. Montero, Call Me By Your Name, Lil Nas X. Driver's License, Olivia Rodrigo, and Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic.
I think Leave the Door Open is the best song on that list. The Brandy Carlisle song is good, not the best on the album, probably my second go-to. The ABBA nomination is long overdue, and they might give it to them specifically on Legacy alone. It's hard for me to get really overpowered about that. Leave the Door Open probably is the safest bet, if only because it's playing to everything that the Grammys already like.
Yeah, I see that too. Album of the year, We Are, John Baptiste. Love for Sale, Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga. Justice, Justin Bieber. Planet Her, Doja Cat. Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish. Back of My Mind, Her. Montero, Lil Nas X. Sour, Olivia Rodrigo. Evermore, Taylor Swift. And Donda, Kanye West.
I mean, my go-to here is Happier Than Ever. I think that album is great. I think it's probably best fitting in an album category. The rest of that list is I would take or leave it. There's a lot of meh on that list.
But they gave John Baptiste a lot of nominees.
That is because he's going into the Janelle Monáe / Her category as being extremely well connected and extremely well liked within the industry, but without the broader crossover.
Right. Wait, I think Happier Than Ever wins.
It won't win. I think it probably goes to, it'll depend if it probably goes to Sour, maybe, because of how, but that one's kind of wide open to me. I know that Kanye is not winning, though.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
I really hope he doesn't.
Song of the Year, Bad Habits, Ed Sheeran. A Beautiful Noise, Alicia Keys and Brandy Carlisle. Driver's License, Olivia Rodrigo. Fight for You, Her. Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish. Kiss Me More, Doja Cat, Leave the Door Open, Call Me by Your Name, Montero, Peaches, and Right on Time.
I mean, there's a lot of overlap. Bad Habits is not winning anything.
Oh no.
No, it's not. Sorry. Like the industry wanted to make it a thing. It only barely is one. It's tough to say with this one. I'd love to say Leave the Door Open because I think the song is great, but again, this is wide open to me.
I see Driver's License winning.
I don't know. It depends on how much they throw behind Olivia Rodrigo. I think that a Driver's License would be a good song to win with it because it's got that ballad format that I think the Grammys really like. But it's a tough one. It also dropped really early in the year. How many people will go to Driver's License versus Good for You as their Olivia Rodrigo song, unless they're huge fans of like Deja Vu and Traitor, and that always surprises me.
And then Best New Artist, Aruj Aftab, Jimmy Allen, Baby Keem, Phineas, Glass Animals, Japanese Breakfast, which those two are not new artists.
No.
The Kid Leroy, Arlo Parks, Olivia Rodrigo, and Saweetie.
This is Olivia Rodrigo's To Lose. Again, Glass Animals has been around since 2012. So I don't know why they got nominated.
Japanese Breakfast has been around forever.
Yeah. Well, and that too. She's been around for a long time. So I think it's Olivia Rodrigo's To Lose. I would be surprised if she didn't. She probably wins this. I honestly kind of hope she doesn't because Best New Artist is the sort of curse that you don't want to see inflicted upon an artist. I'd like to see this go to Arlo Parks. Honestly, God, I think it because like that album is not my thing, but I think it actually would work well for the sort of artist that the Grammys would like to put forward. I think there's a lot to her sound that fits what the Grammys like.
Yeah, but the last 3 years they've given it to Dua Lipa, Billie Eilish, and Megan Thee Stallion. So
I mean, I know, but like we can dream.
Yeah, we can certainly dream. The year before Dua Lipa, they gave it to Alicia Cara, and you've displayed your frustrations on that one.
I feel bad for Alessia Cara. I reviewed her album this year. It wasn't good, but it was at least trying. I think, again, this is an issue of her management more than her herself.
Yeah. I would do the rock categories, but they're irrelevant. So.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just stating facts. Because they're nominating a bunch of old heads and not putting any new ones on.
But
Wouldn't it have been nice if Spirit Box got a nod? But
they're too young. They're too new to the scene. Spirit Box was not going to get it. Like, and that's the unfortunate thing. Like, even the people we know behind Spirit Box who are industry lifers.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be very honest there. When you have people like Courtney LaPlante, who was in I Wrestled a Bear once, like a decade ago, and you realize that, oh yeah, a lot of these people have been around for a while. You'd think that the Grammys would be closer on the punch with that, but no.
But plugs, Mark.
All right.
Your 1,000 plugs.
I don't have 1,000. Okay, if you guys want to check me out specifically on anything that I'm putting out outside of social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, unfortunately, but I barely use it. You can find me on YouTube at Spectrum Pulse for my main channel and my said channel, which is Billboard Breakdown, where I talk about all the inanities and insanity over there. Heading into the end of the year, I've got a few solo album reviews left, plus one more episode of On the Pulse, maybe two. We'll have to see on timing. And then it's year-end list season for me, where I'll be talking about the best and the worst that comes out of the charting hits, and then the albums and songs that I've covered in the year. And from there, it's going to be interesting to see what 2022 opens up for us, because again, it seems kind of slow going to the start. I felt like the end of 2020 had a lot more going on than 2021 has.
Oh yeah. Like we were like talking like for like an hour last year about like the end.
Yeah, and this year it feels like there's a lot less, which I'm actually kind of okay with. It gives me a little bit of time to breathe and decompress and, see my family. So going on from that, if you want to potentially help support my channel or potentially provide any insight into my personal Discord, or hey, go even further from that, help support and get albums on my schedule that you want me to talk about, you can join my Patreon at Spectrum Pulse there as well. I'd be very much appreciative. Once again, do not feel obligated. Times are tough, I understand, but if you're interested, the option is available.
Yes, the option is available, and you can listen to me Fridays mornings on montcoradio.com, where music and minds meet, hard and heavy, from 10 a.m. to noon. And then I'm on Great Master Generator on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. And you can find me on Twitter at DJDKooks. Kooks is how you spell Kooks. So thank you all for listening, and have a good day.